Three, two, one. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Strictly Business Podcast. John Staker here, being joined by Mike Ritz. Mike, I missed you on our Week 2 NFL Predictions podcast. You were unable to join me in the predictions, but you were being a good boyfriend, and you were spending the weekend with the birthday girl, Monique.
Well, it's actually touching to know that you actually missed me on the podcast. But
I did.
But that means a lot. But yeah, certain things came up and I had other obligations. But now I'm back. I'm fresh. I'm back and fresh. You know, I haven't done this in a week, so now I feel like I had my bye week.
Yeah, you had your bye week, and on that bye week you replenish yourself with some Ritz's Rambles, because everyone can look forward to today 2 editions of the Ritz's Ramble, 2 of them. So. And I promise you that they're close and personal and big ones for Mike Ritz. So everyone can look forward to that. But before
Excellent plug.
I try. But before we dive into that, we're going to dive into Week 2 of the NFL, recap that a little bit. And I mean, before we go into any of the games, Mike, me and you both agreed we got to touch on the storylines that happened this past week, because the NFL was already in a storm of controversy. And things just went from bad to worse, much, much worse.
Yeah, it seems like every day there's a new player that's coming out and, doing bad things. It just makes the NFL look kind of worse than it is right now. The Arizona Cardinals announced that their backup running back, Jonathan Dwyer, he gets arrested for domestic violence. You got the Greg Hardy story with the Panthers. Obviously, it's all the aftermath of the Ray Rice situation, and it seems like every single day somebody else is just either getting found out or doing these things recently. It's really not a good look for the NFL, because I think the NFL, once the Ray Rice story came out, they thought that was going to be the end of it, but they're getting even more backlash with all these new players coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, listen, the NFL botched the Ray Rice investigation. That is 100% true. Now, this comes out, and the NFL, they don't really know how to address it. Luckily, the big story that came out was Adrian Peterson was accused of and indicted and arrested on child abuse charges. Graphic images came out of his 4-year-old son, with scratches across all of his legs. Blood was obviously drawn, and he was whipped with a switch as a form of discipline by Adrian Peterson. And then Adrian Peterson was, turned himself in and paid his bail, and now he's obviously not in prison. But that was the big storyline. And then you mentioned Jonathan Dwyer of the Cardinals. He's arrested for both child abuse and domestic violence, both. So just combine Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson into one, you get that mess. And my question is, where is Roger Goodell? Because I have not heard from Roger Goodell in a statement, and I think the past week, since this whole Adrian Peterson story unfolded.
Yeah, I think that's the big question. That's what everybody was saying when this whole Ray Rice situation was happening, is where is his press conference? Where is any statement from Roger Goodell? I mean, the NFL can have any, statements they want, but I think everybody wants Roger Goodell to come out and say things, because hiding certainly isn't helping up his situation right now, because his job is on the line. Like, I think that he's fighting for his job right now, because look at the mess that the past week and a half, 2 weeks has been for him. And any knock of the NFL is a knock on him. So, obviously, this whole story really isn't out with the Ray Rice situation, which almost seems as a backstory now with all the other stories coming about, especially the Adrian Peterson story. But they still haven't got the full truth on what was going on with Ray Rice. Did they see the video first? Did they not see the video? So, this certainly isn't a good look for Roger Goodell, and he really needs to kind of come out. And even if he comes out and has a press conference, even if he doesn't take any questions, I think that he needs to come out, show face, most importantly, say what he has to say, and I think he should take some questions, because there's a lot of questions to be answered.
Yeah, there is I don't know if you could count how many questions reporters are going to have for Roger Goodell when he finally steps out and addresses the media. Because, I mean, listen, the Adrian Peterson thing's terrible. He got indicted on one charge, and now another charge is brought up. He's been accused of a secondary abuse where there have been scars left on a kid who he had with a separate girl, need I mention. He had scars on his head, and he got a whooping in the car. So, I mean, Adrian Peterson is being charged or being accused of two charges of child abuse. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And I do give credit to the Minnesota Vikings. They deactivated him for the game against the New England Patriots. Then they unfortunately activated him the next day, which I think was an improper move. But then overnight was like, you know what? This is a bad idea. We're going to deactivate him again and make the right decision. So they kind of flip-flopped, but eventually I think you got to give credit to the Vikings for getting it right, putting him on the exempt list, and saying, hey, listen, you're not going to play until this entire criminal process is played out.
Yeah, I mean, eventually they made the right decision. Obviously, the flip-flop, they didn't look necessarily good, but overall they made the right decision. My thing is, look, I get he's your best player, but you guys, the Vikings stink anyway every single year, so it's not like, yes, he's your best player. He's your franchise. You guys win 5 games a year anyway with him, so you can win 5 games without him. That's my point. So it really shouldn't be – it shouldn't even hesitate with this guy. He obviously came clean to doing it, so it's not even like, oh, we don't know if he did it. The guy clearly did it. And, you know, sit him out, and then we'll see what the NFL does and Roger Goodell does. If he ever comes out of hiding.
I mean, there's a bunch of tweets I read, like, did people take Roger Goodell hostage and stuff like that? Our lawyers are taking him hostage to make sure he doesn't talk at all. But interesting is Darren Rovell tweeted out he took a poll, or he found a poll that was conducted by Marist College and another I guess you could say reliable poll source, and I can't find his tweet verbatim, but it's something like 85 or 88% of people have not been deterred away from the NFL since these allegations have come out against Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson, Jonathan Dwyer, and such. And also, roughly only 35%, according to this poll, saw fit that Roger Goodell should lose his job and be forced out of office. Only 35% of people said that with these allegations he should be forced out. And I thought that was incredibly low.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It really is, because you don't know for a fact whether or not, you know, whatever shady business that was going on in the Ray Rice situation. Unfortunately, we might not ever know the truth of what really happened. At least for Roger Goodell's role in all this. And I think, although if you take out Roger Goodell and put somebody else in there, I still believe the NFL is such a money-driven, just a machine right now that that it's not like it's going to lose money if you get Roger Goodell out of the NFL. But it doesn't change the fact, like, getting rid of Roger Goodell isn't going to change the fact of the type of players that are in the NFL right now. You know what I mean? So even if you get rid of Roger Goodell, that doesn't necessarily mean all this is going to stop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And obviously we've talked about this. The owners clearly like him because he put a lot of money in these guys' pockets. And even if you can get a new guy to come in and do that, you know, maybe the owners, they don't necessarily like change much. They have a relationship with Roger Goodell. They appreciate and at least respect what this guy has been doing. And it's going to be hard. And, oh, my Lord. Stank, are you watching this game right now?
Oh, my God, they scored again. Jesus Christ.
That's a punt return.
Oh, my God. In case people don't, we're watching the Atlanta Falcons absolutely destroy the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on possibly the most uninteresting NFL game I've ever watched. It's awful.
Man, that's another punt return. It's about to be 35-0.
Is that Devin Hester? That's an NFL record for Devin Hester. It's the 20th career NFL return for a touchdown.
So breaking news here. Flag.
Oh, man.
Breaking news here on the Strictly Business podcast, but it's an unsportsmanlike conduct, so it's going to stand. He broke the record.
Oh, he broke the record. Congratulations, Devin Hester. And for the record, me and you are both going to start out 1-0 this week on picks because we both had the Falcons over the Bucs.
Which I'll definitely take because it was a rough week last week.
Man, I don't even want to tell you my record last week. I don't even want to tell you. I don't. I'm not even going to say it. It was that bad. It was that bad.
Yeah, but going back to this NFL situation, yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised because I don't think the NFL likes change. I don't think the owners like change. And we've talked about this. It is the owners that are primarily going to have a role in getting rid of Roger Goodell if that happens. So I'm not surprised with 35%. And if more of these stories come out, I wouldn't be surprised if that 35% rose.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it'd be more like 45-50 to be honest with you in terms of the poll results. I disagree with you. I think Roger Goodell has a little bit to do with the fact that players like this are getting into the NFL because I don't know if you saw, but Brandon Marshall's family came forward with a lawyer, and they made an allegation that Roger Goodell blatantly ignored their, I guess you could say, pleas or claims that Brandon Marshall was performing domestic abuse against them back when Brandon Marshall was charged or was brought forward with these charges. And they said, the lawyer said Roger Goodell did not do enough, and he blatantly ignored the issue and ignored evidence. And if that becomes true, or any fact of that becomes true, and a cover-up is found in any way, shape, or form, like say, for instance, it's proven that Roger Goodell saw the Ray Rice video and still only gave Ray Rice a 2-game suspension, then I think that number skyrockets. And I personally think that Roger Goodell has something to do with the fact that these players are getting into the league somehow because they are the best athletes, but they're obviously not the best people. And right now, when you look at scouting and how teams are scouting, they know that they can get away with not the best people in the NFL because they have some sort of safety net of, hey, if this guy messes up, he might not get caught because of something that maybe the NFL is doing. That's my conspiracy theory. I'm theorizing for you right now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would have to take proof that he did see the video for him to even remotely think about losing his job. If all the information that we have right now stays the same, this guy's not going to go anywhere. I really don't think so. But yeah, if more stuff comes out and more people come out and really bash Roger Goodell and have some sort of proof that he did see the video, or if he comes out and he said, even if he comes out and says he handled it wrong, then I would think. But the players, unfortunately, it's not. We talk about this. It's not the players' decision. So we'll see how it comes out. But it's just been a mess of 2 weeks for the NFL.
Oh yeah, I mean it's sad that most of the talk is not about the games. It's about the controversies off the field. You never would have thought that week 2 of the NFL, but such is the case. But we got to talk about week 2 in the NFL. We got to move away from the depressing stories off the field and move on to some of the interesting stories taking place on the field. And for me, Mike, the biggest story thus far is a team that I have going to the Super Bowl from the NFC in my preseason predictions. The New Orleans Saints are 0-2 on the year. How does that happen?
Man, it was they got clipped by the Browns in Cleveland, and they just what's surprising to me is their defense, to be honest. This was a defense that was supposed to come out. They were all set. This was going to be the reason why people were picking them to make it to the Super Bowl, is because they have an increased defense. They've always had a good offense. They've always had Drew Brees. Well, now they had a good defense to back it up, at least what people thought going into the season. But it's non-existent so far. They got 37 on them against Atlanta, and now the Browns put up 26 on you. It's not a good look right now for the Saints, and I still believe they're a very good football team, but I'm very, very surprised they start off the year 0-2.
Yeah, the Saints dropped their 5th straight, 5 in a row, regular season road games. They've lost 5 straight regular season road games, and no matter how much Drew Brees says, we don't play any different on the road than we do at home like he did last year, that's a complete and utter lie. because they are such a different team in New Orleans than they are on the road. And also want to congratulate the Browns because for the first time in 10 years, they are 1-0 at home. For the first time in 10 years.
That is just so sad. And Mike Penton's first career victory as a head coach.
Yeah, he got a Gatorade bath. And he said after the game he was looking forward to smoking a celebratory cigar. So he was very, very happy with the win. And also bad news out of this game for the Saints is that Mark Ingram got hurt, and he's going to be out for an extended period of time. And he was playing very, very well for the Saints as well.
Yeah, he was playing well. And let's see who kind of backs him up. You have Pierre Thomas, you have Kai Robinson. So let's see, because now you really don't have a true back. I mean, Pierre Thomas, yes, but, you know, you have two small guys back there. Mark Ingram was small, but he was stocky. I mean, Pierre Thomas and Kai Robinson are both small, skinny guys, so you really don't have a true back. So let's see what Drew Brees does. I mean, obviously they're primarily a throwing team to begin with, but it almost makes you worry about how much they're going to be throwing the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you. Drew Brees is a fantastic quarterback, but he's not played that well thus far this season. Only 237 yards against the Browns defense. Granted, a good defense, but they're not absolutely stellar. And also, I can tell you how happy I am for Brian Hoyer. Getting a game-winning drive at home, getting that win underneath his belt. Bye-bye any hope of Johnny Manziel, who made his debut and went 0 for 1 with an incompletion, and it was a dropped pass, so it wasn't even his fault, but still. I'm so happy for Brian Hoyer. And for the Browns, this is an absolutely huge win. And for New Orleans, you lost two games that you were in the position to win. You were in the position to win in Atlanta and in New Orleans, and in Cleveland, and you couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, and it also makes Mike Penton look like a genius. Well, not a genius, but it just makes him look like a strong-willed team by not caving and starting Johnny Manziel or even thinking about playing Manziel. He's done the best he can to kind of keep the media out of the spotlight of Johnny Manziel, and what better way to do it than just beat a good football team and really have the confidence in Brian Hoyer to do what he did on Sunday.
Yeah, and do you know, is Marquise Colston hurt? Do you know this?
Yes, I think Colston's hurt, yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the box score right now for New Orleans in receiving. Jimmy Graham targeted 13 times. The next guy closest was Robert Meacham, targeted 5 times. Jimmy Graham, 118 yards receiving. Next closest, Robert Meacham, 37 yards on 3 receptions. Jimmy Graham had 10 receptions. So, you're going to ask Drew Brees to pass. He's only going to be passing to one guy, Jimmy Graham, because, frankly, outside of that, he doesn't have that much to go to because Cooks did not have that good of a game, the rookie Brandon Cooks for New Orleans against Cleveland either.
Wow, no, Colston is healthy, Stanko. He just had 0 catches and 0 targets in week 2. He had that costly fumble against the Falcons in week 1, but he went 0 catches and 0 targets in week 2, and this article says it's the first time since 2008 that's happened to Colston.
Well, there you go. You got to wonder, was Hayden matched up on him the entire time, Joe Hayden? You got to figure.
Yeah, to be fair, he had 5 catches for 110 yards in week 1. So, let's see. I'm really not too phased. Any wide receiver, I'm not really phased because Brees is going to get you the ball if he can get you the ball.
All right, that's a very fair point. All right, so we talked about the Saints. They're starting off 0-2. Was there any other games week 2 that stuck out to you, Mike?
Personally, I was surprised the Cowboys handled the Titans as handily as they did because they just looked so bad in week 1 against the Niners that they came out and they played fantastic against the Titans team, who I obviously have a lot of confidence in. And the Cowboys really took it to them. And also the other thing, I'm sticking with the NFC East. RG3 hurt again, and at least for me, I think that's the best thing that can happen for the Redskins right now.
Yep.
Is RG3 getting hurt.
Whoop, whoop. Jump on that Kirk Cousins bandwagon because I'm the captain. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. I am so happy RG3's hurt. So happy. Not because he's hurt not because he's hurt and nothing like that, but it's because it's going to give Kirk Cousins the opportunity to show that he is a better quarterback for that system in Washington and he gives them a better chance to win.
Yeah, I think if anything, because people are saying how the Redskins are out of it now, I think this gives them more of a chance in the division with RG3 sitting than it does with Kirk Cousins. I really believe in Kirk Cousins, and I'm kind of mad as a Giants fan, and we'll get to them in a second. I'm kind of mad as a Giants fan that RG3 got hurt because now Kirk Cousins is a pretty good, pocket passer, and the Redskins just got a little more dangerous.
Yep, I completely agree with you. And I want to get back to your Cowboys for a second. Can we talk about the start of the year that DeMarco Murray is having? 285 yards, averaging 5.6 yards a carry so far this season. Absolutely phenomenal. And if he keeps running the ball like that, that's a recipe for Cowboys success. Because you don't want Tony Romo throwing the ball 40 times a game.
No, you don't. And, yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. But I really believe that they have one of the top 5. Is it safe to say they have one of the top 5 offenses in the league? I really think it is. Because I don't think Romo is. Romo is a pretty good quarterback who just really just can't. He always throws that one pick that everyone talks about. DeMarco Murray's a steady back. Dez Bryant. They have a lot of weapons that they use here with the Cowboys. And it's just if their defense can hold, they're a pretty good football team, and it held against Titans. It really did, and that's why we disagree in where the Cowboys are going to finish in the East. But we have to talk about how bad the Giants were again against the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday.
Yes, I am very disappointed in your Giants because when I found out Carson Palmer wasn't playing, I was like, you know what, the Giants have a shot. They have a year to recuperate. They're without Carson Palmer. I don't think they're going to be able to throw the ball as effectively, obviously. But, yeah, your Giants somehow proved me wrong once again.
And, honestly, at times, I would say from about the second quarter to the start of the fourth, the offense looked pretty good. It really did. And they just turned the ball over, whether it was dumb picks or just or fumbles. And just don't even get me started with Victor Cruz. He just continues to drop. He was bad. He was pretty bad in week 1. He was a big reason the Giants lost the game in week 2. There was a big play on 3rd and 6. Just a nice little play action, a little dump pass to a wide open Victor Cruz, probably about 8 yards deep. Definitely would have got a first down and then some. He drops the ball. 4th and 6, we go to punt, and then Ted Ginn Jr. runs it back and then gives them the lead. It's just stuff like that. I mean, Coughlin prides in this team doing all the little things right, and we're just doing a lot of these little things wrong. A lot of penalties, a lot of dumb turnovers, a lot of drop passes. And, Cardinals are a pretty good football team, but I really think the Giants were in pretty good position to win this football game, and they ended up losing by double digits.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but the Cardinals aren't that good of a football team without Carson Palmer at quarterback. Drew Stanton is not Carson Palmer. I mean, I don't understand. Turnovers are just killing Eli Manning. 2 more interceptions. I mean, I am baffled. I really thought the Giants could win this game. I really, really did. And, man, I don't know what to say. Drew Stanton beat them. Drew Stanton was able to manage the game well. He only averaged 6 yards of completion. But, I mean, you look at the stats, nothing really stands out for Arizona. They didn't do anything particularly well, except for the fact that they didn't turn the ball over, and the Giants had 3 turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was, too.
4 turnovers, excuse me.
I don't think they did anything. I don't think they did anything specifically well on offense because, obviously, they got the 7 of the points from a nice punt return. But, I mean, I think on defense, I think they're a pretty good defensive team, but like you said, without their starting quarterback, Andre Ellington, not 100%. This was a game at home that the Giants really should have had.
Yep, and the other big game I guess we could say that we could talk about, but now it's kind of a moot point because Atlanta's dominating so bad now, is Atlanta fell at home to the Bengals. The Bengals, who were undefeated at home last year, continue that stretch. They beat the Falcons in Week 2 24-10. But I think the Falcons are bouncing back okay, up 35-0 with about 4 minutes left in the first half against Tampa Bay. So I think that any overreaction we were going to have about the Falcons is now unwarranted.
I do believe that I had the Bengals in that game, Stanko, and I'm pretty sure your Jaguars lost too. I think I'm up 2 on you on the pick.
I'm pretty sure that you are, and I will concede that week 2 last week, since I've been keeping track of my weekly picks, was my worst ever. I think since my freshman year of college, when I started doing pigskin pick 'em every week, it was my worst week ever picking games, ever.
Yeah, it was certainly a rough week, but also, Stanko, we've glossed over one game that we need to get to is the Jets and the Packers.
Oh, yeah.
It was certainly an entertaining game, to say the least. The Jets came out, and they were on fire in the beginning, defensively and surprisingly offensively. They looked like they were handling the Packers in the first half. They had a 21-3 lead. All the momentum was going with the Jets. In Lambeau Field, they were playing on the road. Geno Smith looked pretty good. They ran the ball well. They were bothering Rodgers. They were kind of doing everything right, and then all of a sudden, the wheels started to kind of fall apart. They finished at halftime. It was 21-16, and then a little controversy happened towards the end of the game, Stanko.
Yeah, you look at it, basically what happened was the Jets were on offense. It was 4th down, and they needed a touchdown to win the game. And Geno Smith hikes the ball and throws a touchdown pass into the end zone. Jets fans are going crazy celebrating, yet the Jets bench called a timeout. However, it was not Rex Ryan who called the timeout. Instead, it was Marty Mornhinweg who called the timeout. And guess what, Mike? An assistant coach is not allowed to call a timeout. So now the question is, I pose to you this. Whose fault is it for calling that timeout? Is it Marty Mornhinweg for asking for it, for yelling it? Is it the referee for hearing it and then blowing the whistle? What do you make of the situation?
I think that in the end, I think a head coach needs to have some sort of, obviously he needs to have control of his sideline. So I think in the end, you got to look at Rex, because although he's a player's coach, it just looks so unorganized on the sidelines and confusion on the sidelines. This isn't the first time that this type of thing happens. So I think that it's clear Rex, I don't think he coaches both sides of the ball, and which is fine, because I don't think he ever claimed that he did. But I think the fact that kind of puts a lot of confidence in other coaches may kind of give the assistant coaches, I don't know how you say it, believe they have more power than they do. So I think that towards the end of the game, when things are going crazy, I think the head coach needs to kind of have control of his sideline. So even though he wasn't willing to call the timeout, the ref should have looked to see if it was Rex calling the timeout. I think in the end, the assistant coach needs to know what to do in that situation, and it falls on Rex's shoulders. I believe it really does.
I tend to agree with you. I think it was our friend Tommy Simon who pointed out in an article that Rex Ryan's headset was programmed onto the defensive side. He was listening to the defensive coordinator at that moment. So if that's true, he's not even focusing on the play at hand, which is going to determine the rest of the game. Listen, I think that the refs made a mistake, obviously, but I don't think you could blame the refs, because I guarantee that happened on more than one occasion, but just never in that magnitude at that moment on a 4th down to decide the game, or a touchdown where it's the end result of the play that got canceled out.
Yeah, but then if you look at it on the other side, Geno Smith throws that pass, and it's an incomplete pass, and they go and they call a timeout. We wouldn't even be talking about it.
Exactly.
It's like, it's so, hindsight's 20/20, obviously, but if Geno Smith throws that ball up, it gets intercepted, or it's an incomplete pass, and the ref blows the whistle, then people would have so many different opinions on this. So it's kind of a catch-22 with kind of everyone's opinion on this, because so many different things could have happened. And there was 5 minutes left in the football game, and I 100% believe the Packers are still going to win that game, even if that touchdown stood. So, but people are also glossing over the fact that the Jets had a 21-3 lead in this football game, and they just let the Packers right back into it, and all the way as well. So, although it was kind of an unlucky, for the Jets, I mean, you can't blame that on why they lost the game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and I think another big thing to come out of this game is that the Jets secondary got absolutely lit up by Aaron Rodgers.
Embarrassed.
365 yards, I believe it was. 346, excuse me. 3 touchdowns. And Jordy Nelson, 209 yards receiving. That's a career high for him. So the Jets secondary was a worry for them heading into the season, and this game kind of tore off the Band-Aid and let everyone see how wounded it really, really is. So you got to think that teams are going to look to exploit that. The Green Bay Packers may have created some tape for other teams to study to exploit the Jets moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, there are positives to take out of it. Like, I mean, I didn't think the Jets would kind of give it to the Packers. I mean, I did say it was going to be a blowout. I didn't think it was going to be that close, though, to be fair. But, yeah, I mean, there's obviously positives you can take out, but, you know, it's a pass-fail league. And unfortunately, it only matters if you win or you lose in this league. So, unfortunately, it's a really, really good loss, but, you know, there's no such thing as almost in the NFL. So let's see how the Jets respond in Week 3 when they take on the Bears, which I think is going to be an interesting matchup.
It's going to be a good game. And one last point before we move on is that you talk about how the Jets dominated early. Well, in the first quarter, Geno Smith had a 99.7 QBR in the first quarter.
Yeah.
From then on, he had an 11 QBR and completed only 4% of his passes in the last 3 quarters.
Wow.
So Geno Smith fell off. That's why the Jets fell off, and that's why the Packers were able to come from behind and get the win. So that timeout controversy was not the only reason that they lost that game.
No, I mean, definitely not. Definitely not. And anybody who says that is the sole reason, like, it's really just, it's dumb. Is what it is. Like, obviously, and more often than not, I'm not gonna say it's all Jet fans, but a lot of Jets fans believe they kind of got screwed, and although unlucky, that definitely was the main reason why they lost.
Yep. All right, Mike. So we talked a little bit of NFL. Now it's time for the first of 2 Rich's Rambles on this edition of the Strictly Business Podcast. Take the first one away.
All right. Well, I guess a little foreshadowing here because we're going to talk about the FIBA World Cup for the USA basketball team, which happens to be coached by my all-time favorite guy, Coach Mike Krzyzewski, coach of my Duke Blue Devils. Haters going to hate. And we'll talk about one hater. There's an article written on Yahoo Sports. Can you pronounce the guy's name, Johnny?
I cannot. Nope.
It's not Wojciechowski, but we'll just call him Adrian. And he writes an article about how Coach K has an unfair advantage by coaching for the USA team, for the national team, saying that he has a leg up in recruiting and how people see Coach K and this gives him an unfair advantage against other coaches. So I have so many things running through my head right now, which is why I needed 2 rambles, which you'll find out later on the podcast why I need 2. But first thing is, for me, in the article, if nobody has read it, he mentions how only Coach K is really mentioned, and Jimmy Boeheim, the head coach.
I was going to say that. Yep.
He is also an assistant coach. So it was really directed at Coach K, although Jim Boeheim was mentioned. But I kind of find it odd that Coach K was really the main one mentioned when the guy directly below him is Jim Boeheim, and he's doing a lot of the things. He's traveling and doing the same things as Coach K. And if you're going to say this one thing about Coach K, you got to say the same thing about Boeheim, right? 2 ACC coaches. And then my main point is that the main point in the article was that Coach K goes and talks to the select team, the under-19 select team, once every time he coaches in the Olympics or FIBA World Cup. So, every 2 years he goes and does a speech to these 19-year-olds, and he says that is an unfair advantage. I don't think the 10 minutes that he does to talk to these guys gives him an advantage, to be honest. They bring up the fact that Coach K landed Jahlil Okafor, who's going to be a freshman this year, and he was at the camp when Coach K made the speech, and it says it gave him an unfair advantage for Jahlil Okafor to go to Duke. But they gloss over the fact that Jahlil Okafor is from Chicago, and if you look at Coach K's track record, if a good kid is from Chicago and Duke's recruiting him, 9 times out of 10 he's going to Duke. Coach K has a lot of Chicago roots, and he lands Chicago players. That's just how it is. But my main point is, the head coach of the under-19 select team is Florida coach Billy Donovan, and the coach is Shaka Smart from VCU. Not once is that mentioned in this article. And my point is, Coach K isn't even coaching the kids that Coach K is trying to recruit, that everyone else is trying to recruit. If anything, it would be Billy Donovan who would get the unfair advantage because he's already coaching these players before they go to college. So wouldn't you think that if someone was going to have an advantage, it would be Billy Donovan and Shaka Smart? And I'm not saying, now I'm not naive. I obviously think that people see Coach K and he can say, look, I coach the best players in the world. That's clearly something that you can say that is on his resume that not too many people have. But I will say, how did Coach K get to become the USA national basketball head coach? He is the winningest college basketball coach of all time. That he earned that job because of previous success. So it wasn't like Coach K was struggling at recruiting, then gets his job for the USA basketball team, and all of a sudden he's getting the best recruiting classes in the nation. Coach K's always been a good recruiter, has always got the top guys, and frankly, if you look at Coach K's track record since 2006, he's had one national championship in 2010. We've got bounced out of the first round 2 out of the past 3 years. So if anything, he's had more success since before he was the coach of USA basketball than he's ever been when he was the coach. So I just have so many problems. There's so many holes in the story that I just really needed to get out, and it really made me mad. And the last thing I'm going to say is Coach John Calipari came out, and he was first kind of agreeing, saying that Coach K gets an unfair advantage, which if anybody is not in the place to talk about unfair advantages in recruiting, John Calipari, all the violations that he's got at Memphis and at St. Joe's and at all these, UMass, not St. Joe's, and all these and banners taken down, and not to mention John Calipari still managed to get the top recruiting class, and he's the Puerto Rican national basketball head coach with which he landed one of the top recruits this year who played on the team. So I just find John Calipari a hypocrite. He came out on Twitter and said that he is behind Jerry Colangelo and Coach K and Jim Boeheim, kind of backtracking his words a little bit. But just there were so many problems in this story that I just really needed to get out because a lot of the blame was on Coach K. And the last thing I will say, this is quite the ramble, I apologize. But the
That's
last
it's a good one.
that was mentioned was the fact, I don't know if you saw this, Johnny, but when Paul George got hurt, that horrific injury, there was a picture of Coach K in the hospital consoling Paul George. And the guy, Adrian, I wish I could pronounce his last name, in the Yahoo article, said that was staged. So anybody who was around the situation, including Coach K himself, including Jim Boeheim, including Paul George, all say the same thing, that it is utterly ridiculous. Coach K wasn't even allowed into the hospital because there were so many cameras outside the hospital. Coach K said he had to go through the back door, and he was in the hospital with Paul George, his family, Paul George's girlfriend, and he said that Paul George's parents took that picture, and Paul George's sister put that picture of Coach K consoling Paul George on Twitter. And Adrian from Yahoo said that he believes that picture was staged to show how good of a guy Coach K is, and that this is all a publicity stunt to get players to come to Duke. And I can't disagree with him more. I'm not going to say that it's not an advantage, but I'm saying that this guy was a stud before he was the coach of USA basketball, and there's a reason why he's one of the winningest coaches. He is the winningest coach of all time. and there's just so many things wrong with this article, and I don't know too many people that agree with this guy. I really don't.
I don't know anyone who agrees with him. I mean, in regards to your Paul George comment, or the comment made by this reporter, Laura Keeley, who's a Duke beat reporter for the Raleigh News and Observer and Charlotte Observer, she got a quote from Coach K that she posted on Twitter, and Coach K said, "If you want to think that I use Paul George, you are a bad person." So that's his response to that. Short, sweet, and simple, and 100% true. And also, Coach K was quoted as saying, "We recruited a lot of really good players before I coached the United States team," said Krzyzewski. I'm reading from a CBS Sports college basketball article. Krzyzewski referenced Grant Hill, Tommy Ebiker, Johnny Dawkins, and others from the Duke past. Krzyzewski went on to say, "In fact, a lot of them have their jerseys retired. A lot of them have been National Players of the Year. I don't think anybody I've recruited since I've been head coach of USA has been National Player of the Year." And that goes to your point that there's been less success since he started coaching this USA team. And sure, it gives him somewhat of a leg up. Don't get me wrong. But the fact of the matter is, Coach K, his name before he started coaching Team USA had leverage to it that no other coach had.
And the last thing I'm going to say is John Calipari also said that nobody would turn down the USA basketball job if it was offered. So
Exactly.
So then if Coach Cal gets this job, then he's kind of shooting himself in the foot, because then everyone else will say, "Oh, well, Coach Cal's the one that's getting the unfair advantage." And he's the guy who's having these NBA scouts come to the Kentucky gym and open gyms, and everyone's trying to figure out how any of this is legal. So, there's just I just really had a problem with this whole thing the past day or so with this article and people's reactions to it. Just really, really ticked me off, Sanko.
Yeah, and Boeheim actually commented on Calipari's frustration. He said that it's a concern that he raised it, referring to Calipari. That particular case he mentioned, he said he thinks it's an advantage. He got the number one recruit in the country. It's a little bit disingenuous of him. I like John. We get along fine. He feels Mike is getting an advantage. You can make that argument, but Duke isn't getting any better players than they ever have. So, I mean, Jim Boeheim obviously disagrees with Calipari, and Calipari, as you mentioned, has backfired, or has I don't want to say backfired. What's the word I'm looking for? Retreating from his original comments. But yeah, this whole article is shady and it's wrong, and it's just not objectively correct. I don't understand. You mentioned that they don't even mention how good Coach K's recruiting is in Chicago. So it's just not objectively right, and it seems to be written with an agenda. I can't get by that thought in my head. That I don't know how you come up with the idea to write an article like this where you forget so many facts. You got to have some sort of mindset heading into it.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing coming out of this article is it created a Ritz's Ramble.
Yes, it did. It created a great Ritz's Ramble, the best to date.
Oh, man.
All right, so you got that out of your system. Now we'll talk about different subjects so you can recharge for your second ramble, which will happen in a little bit.
I need to rest. I got to rest now.
All right, well, we're going to rest by talking about an event that, I'm going to be honest with you, I was not super intrigued in because I knew what the result is. I knew what the result was going to be when they first announced it. The NBA held their FIBA championship, if you will, and the United States won it in absolutely dominating fashion. They won by an average of 33 points per game, and in the final game they defeated Serbia 129-92 to win the gold medal. I don't know about you, Mike, but for me, congratulations Team USA, first of all. Congratulations. They dominated throughout. They obviously proved that they're the best. However, were you interested in this event? Did you watch any game from start to finish?
I mean, I'm biased. I love Coach K, Kyrie Irving, former Duke Blue Devil, Mason Plumlee made the team, former Duke Blue Devil. So I watched some games to see how my boys were doing, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch one from start to finish. I would, however, have watched a little more if Kevin Durant played, or I'm going to watch more in the 2 years with the 2016 Olympics when, LeBron James plays and Kevin Durant plays and Carmelo.
Yes, I agree. I'll watch more of that, yes.
I think that's why a lot of people weren't watching it because although it was NBA guys, you got guys like Chandler Parsons making the team, and Chandler Parsons is pretty good, but he shouldn't.
He's not a star.
He's not a star. DeMar DeRozan isn't a star. Mason Plumlee, although pretty good, isn't a star. Kyrie can make the team. I think I was also watching it to see how Derrick Rose was doing because if anybody really benefited from this, it was Derrick Rose. I think people needed to see Derrick Rose play a couple back-to-back games and see him drive to the basket, see him control the ball, control an offense. And I think, if anything, it helped his confidence a little bit that now when it comes to the preseason and then the start of the year, he's not really going to have too many limitations because he knows already that his knee can take it. So I think if anybody really benefited, obviously the young guys like Mason Plumlee, I think Kyrie, still very young, benefited. But I think Derrick Rose really benefited, and everybody around the NBA saw how Derrick Rose is going to be now.
Yeah, but Derrick Rose only averaged 17 minutes a game and only averaged 4.8 points per game. So he didn't. Granted, he played, and that's good. He got extra time in getting in the rhythm of basketball again. But he didn't play that often. So I don't know how much you could take from how well he's going to play when he obviously played against inferior competition and didn't play for a lot of minutes.
Yeah, but I still think that just the explosiveness that he showed and a lot of dunks that he had, primarily the points were going to the rack and dunking basketball. And I think just the fact that his lift, I'm just talking about his knee, just the lift that he's had, it doesn't look like he is limping or he's wincing at all. So I think they limited him. I think Tom Thibodeau, who's on the staff, who is his coach with the Chicago Bulls, probably had a say in it. I don't think that he wanted him to play 40 minutes a night. And frankly, with the USA basketball team, you don't need to because you just have other stars that could play that role. So, but yeah, I still believe that it's a great start for Derrick Rose, and I still think that he benefited from being on the squad.
Yeah, I think he benefited himself. I'm not completely sold, I guess, as much as you are in terms of the explosiveness. I want to see him get banged around a little bit by better competition. But all signs going forward, if you were to take anything out of it, he did look healthy. So that's good up for the upcoming NBA season. And your boy Kyrie Irving took home MVP.
I love me Kyrie Irving. He is so good. He is so good. And I always root for Kyrie and Cleveland just because Kyrie's on here. I really excited to see how Kyrie's going to do with LeBron on the squad now.
Now, I want to ask you this, because I had my answer to this question. Would you have been more interested if, say, high-profile college basketball players went and competed for Team USA instead of NBA stars?
Well, that's obviously going to be the argument, and I honestly think that's the future. I think that I don't know how early it's going to be or how long in the future is it going to take, but I think that's where we're going to go. I think that they see USA just dominating everybody, and I don't think necessarily everyone else really likes it. So, and obviously the injuries to Paul George, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants that injury, and I think that kind of backed off and made everyone hesitant to come out and play and represent U.S. because you're not getting paid. I think players like to come. They like representing the country. I think Coach K has a lot to do with people that want to come to play for him just for time. But I think that, I like seeing it just because I like seeing the best players in the world working together on a team. But I would also really like to see college players playing in it as well. I think bringing back the amateurism of the Olympic Games, at least in the basketball sense, at least for in the USA, is very intriguing to see. But I also like seeing, LeBron, Melo, Kevin Durant, Kevin Love, kind of playing together and kind of how they gel. So I see both sides of it, but I think as we go forward, I think that's where we're going to go to is college guys coming back and representing the U.S.
Yeah, for me, you can't have a middle ground like they had in the championship. You either got to have all the stars. You got to have the LeBron, Durant, Carmelo's, Chris Paul, all of them, or you go to college. Because this is where I lost it. Because I'm sorry, Kenneth Faried is not going to drive me to watch a basketball game. Neither is your boy Miles Plumlee. The only player on that roster.
Get it right. It's Mason.
Mason Plumlee. I'm sorry.
Miles on the Suns. Mason's on the Nets.
I'm sorry. But they're not going to drive me to go to a game and watch. They're not superstars. I would watch college players because, one, the games would be competitive. Two, it's players who are up and coming and they're trying to prove themselves. They don't already have a buck in their pocket. And I think that they would use that as a way to improve for the draft, and they'd be playing for more. I don't want to say more than just their country or something like that, but I think they'd be playing with more personal investment than NBA players. That's not saying anything about NBA players, not taking it personally, playing for their country, stuff like that, because I know that they do. But for me, you've either got to go to the extreme, you got to have all the superstars, or you got to have none, you got to go with the college players. I don't like the in-between.
Well, yeah, and I think that you don't get an in-between in the Olympics. I think you get an in-between with the World Cup because people who are not under contract, like Kevin Love, a big reason why he didn't play is because he didn't know where he was playing when this was going on. And also you get fatigue. Look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant just flat out just stopped. He just said he was done because he was fatigued. LeBron, there was between not knowing where he was going to go, and I think fatigue also sets in. These guys play non-stop, so it's a lot of effort and a lot of wear and tear on your body where you can use those couple months just to rest up and get ready for the next season. So, I mean, I see it both ways. I still think there's some players in the NBA that love representing their country, and when it comes to Olympic time, I still believe that all of the best players are still going to play. Like, that's not going to change. But I think that, like I said, I think come 2020 Olympic time, maybe 2024, let's see who they bring in, because I think that, especially with this Paul George injury, I think NBA teams are going to get more and more worried that their stars are coming out there and playing and risking their bodies every night. And I think that with that fear, they're going to try to kind of gear towards the college players going out to play. But I also will say this. You have these college kids playing now. If you get college guys playing, they're going to be going up against 30-year-old guys who are going to be beating up on them. So, you're going to have top recruits who aren't fully grown yet going up against fully grown men, and they can get hurt. Top recruits can get hurt. So you're not going to get rid of the injury scare, because no matter what, there's always an opportunity to get injured. It's a professional sport. Any sport you can get injured. So it almost is worse if 22-year-olds go out there and risk their bodies against full-grown men from Serbia or from Spain or from all these other countries. So I see both sides.
Listen, I agree. Injury can happen to anyone, but for me, I like watching competitive content, and that's the reason I didn't really tune into this. I watched the highlights of the games, but I knew that the USA was going to come out with at least a 20-point victory every time, and that drove me away from it. College players, granted, we might lose a few games, you might not even win, but the games would be competitive. And I'm sorry, but I like competitive games, even if it's teams I'm not interested in. I like watching competitive games, no matter what the sport, no matter what's happening. Like this NFL game on TV, I'm not even paying attention to it because it's not competitive and it's awful. So I like competition. I like close games. I like when the teams are fairly even. And for me, the Super Championship just shows how much better the USA is with their second tier of NBA stars, and they still dominated the world the way that they did.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you that, I mean, they're blowouts every week. I mean, it really was. There wasn't really a close game, and I do agree with you. So, I mean, we'll kind of see what happens. I think people, like I said, people are starting to see that, you know what, maybe we should have these amateurs come out and play. But I think 2016, that's not going to change. So let's see what happens in the next Olympics after that.
All right. Well, let's do that. Let's wait, 2 more years for the Olympics, and then we'll see what happens there. But Rich, it's time for the second ramble. Are you recharged and are you ready?
I am, and people aren't going to like this one, Johnny.
Oh, I'm going to love this one. I am going to love it.
All right. Well, my second one goes out to the captain, the 20-year veteran of the New York Yankees, Derek Jeter. Now, for those of you who don't know or who haven't heard or who haven't been in front of a TV or a radio or haven't seen a billboard or haven't been outside or have no friends or, who have no family or, or anything, Derek Jeter's retiring. So, I know it might be a shock to some because people really aren't talking about it, and there hasn't been any commercials. He hasn't really gotten recognized for this, but he's retiring, guys. And it might just be being a disgruntled Met fan, but it's just so annoying. Is the word to see him walking out even on road trips, walking out every road trip. You got to have every last game of the homestand with the Tampa Bay Rays and the Orioles giving him a gift. And what's with all this? What is this? Why are other teams giving this guy gifts, honoring him, anything? This guy, he's been your competitor for however some odd years. And to kind of, walk him out, and you are commemorating him in your home ballpark and giving him random gifts. And have you seen some of his gifts, Johnny? Like, have you seen some of the gifts that he's getting? Like,
I have.
It's great. You know what? Derek Jeter's retiring. You know what? I'm going to give him a kayak. Why are we, I'm going to get him a bucket of chicken, some that he's got. He's got pictures. He's gotten trips to overseas. He's done all these things for what? I mean, I don't understand just the reasoning behind these away teams or just the other competitors who are just walking them out, everyone clapping, all this. I mean, not that I was going to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up now because we still have to talk about sports here. The Yankees have been fighting for a playoff spot for the past couple months. I mean, obviously they've been fighting for that playoff spot, but they were fighting for the second wild card spot. And for the past, 2-3 weeks, their most important games, Derek Jeter over 26 had a slump. So in the Yankees' most important stretch, literally nowhere to be found. And there wasn't even talk. People would get exiled if you talk about, maybe he shouldn't be a number 2 hitter. Forget it. No, not Derek Jeter. He would be too proud to do that. Does anybody even think that just for a second, if you knock him down in the lineup, or if you sit him a couple games, that maybe the Yankees would be sitting in the playoffs right now? That's just something that I'm not saying it would, but I'm just saying it's something that no one's really talking about. It could be argued it could be a stretch, but it could be argued that if Derek Jeter was placed down the lineup, or if simply he wasn't in the lineup the past couple of weeks, the Yankees could have gotten in this playoff because they're not looking like they're into it now. And he really had a bad stretch, and no one really kind of talks about that. And, since he's been captain, the Yankees really have only had one championship. And when he was captain, he was the captain of a team who had the worst collapse in baseball history, to Johnny Single's Red Sox. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can nitpick out. And I just really have a problem. I get it. I respect the guy. I respect him for, staying with the same team, which I'm also going to kind of backtrack and say, how hard was it for him to stay in New York? How hard is it for him to stay with the Yankees? Stars all around him. He's in a big, big-time franchise in the Yankees. Was it really that hard for him to stay in New York? It wasn't like he's playing in Houston and just moves in every friggin' week. He's with New York. A bunch of these stars, Posada, Pettit, Clemens, every steroid user, A-Rod, all these guys. And was it really that hard for him to stay? He's beloved for staying in New York, like he was going anywhere else. if anybody leaves, they go for a bigger market. He's in the biggest market. So I just, my main issue was the Yankees have the nerve to have Derek Jeter Day. Well, if you ask me, every 162 games of this year has been Derek Jeter Day. It was way overblown. And I get what Derek Jeter did when he announced that he was retiring this year, because let's face it, he knew he was going to be a bum this year. You knew he wasn't going to hit for average, and he knew that. And he wanted to make sure that he wanted everyone to know that he was retiring not based on the poor performance that he was going to show this year, which nothing was more prevalent than his poor performance these last few months. And he wanted to make sure that this wasn't the reason why he was retiring. He had that in his mind way long before. And the last thing I'm going to say is this last, I don't know if you saw the Stanko, that last Gatorade commercial that just came out on him.
Oh, yeah, with the fans.
I mean, for somebody who didn't want a farewell tour, he really sure seems like he's been enjoying all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't read too much into the commercial because I'm sure he's under contract, and Gatorade's like, he will give you a ton of money to do this. But listen, I agree with a lot of the points you make. I respect Derek Jeter for being with the same team. He's been a stand-up player. You've never seen him on off-the-field trouble. He always dated models, which is good for him.
Exactly. That's the one thing I'll say. He kept his nose clean. So especially nowadays, with all the stuff we're talking about in the NFL and all these arrests and all the mistrust and all the assaults and all the arrests and who's getting pulled over for DUIs, this guy has kept his nose clean. And especially in baseball with the HGH and the steroid era, this guy is clean, hopefully, for now. He's clean. So that is one thing I could say about him, is that he did the right things. But, oh, my Lord, we get it. He's a good guy. Now, please, just everyone shut up. I can't wait for their season to be over. I'm so happy that they're not in the playoffs, because I would have to listen to a whole other month of this. So I'm happy that it's almost over, and in a couple of weeks he will play his last game. And not to mention, he's playing his last game in a field, a stadium that has hated him for so long. And your Boston Red Sox fans are going to give him a standing ovation, Stanko. There's no doubt in my mind, and that bothers me.
Listen. I'm not gonna lie. When I went to a Red Sox game this year, I clapped the first time he was up, because that was the last time I was gonna get to see him play. And I've always respected him as a player. I never really liked him as a person. I always thought he was a little bit arrogant, but I respect him as a player. I did not clap the other times he got up. I booed him because, one, the Yankees were winning, and two, he's the Yankees. But there were people standing up every time he got to the plate, and I was like, guys, you want to win the game or not? It doesn't matter. And the biggest thing for me is I was okay with Mariano Rivera's farewell tour last year because he's the best to ever play his position. He's the best closer to ever close in the game of baseball, and he probably will be in the history of baseball. He was that good. I am perfectly okay with that when you are the best to ever do what you do. Derek Jeter is not the best shortstop of all time. He's a good one. He's left a legacy, but he's not the best. I'm sorry, but you don't deserve the goodbyes and everything like that. You don't deserve that unless you're the absolute best in every way, shape, and form. So that's the biggest problem to me personally.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It really is, and it's really. I don't hate to knock Derek Jeter because, like I said, there's things about him that I like, but I can never like the Yankees, especially this Yankee. But nothing against him personally. If he played for any other team, I probably would like him. But if you're in pinstripes, I'm sorry, you're getting hated on in Ritz's Ramble. That's just how it is.
No, you're getting hated on in the Strictly Business podcast. You're getting hated on overall.
You're getting hated on. This is a bad podcast for you to be a Yankee. It's not the Yankee podcast.
No, it is not. But Rich, very good with the two rambles today. Well done. Your bye week did you well.
I appreciate it. Now, I'm gonna sleep good tonight.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But let's dive into a different topic we have yet to address on the Strictly Wizards podcast. John Stanko with Mike Rich here. We're going to talk a little bit of golf. The Ryder Cup is coming up. A rather, I don't want to say unknown event, but it's well known by golf fans as one of the most unique events of the year. USA versus Europe, and it's quickly approaching. Mike, do you know the start date off the top of your head for the Ryder Cup?
Do I know? I'm sorry, what?
Do you know the start date for the Ryder Cup off the top of your head?
The start date, I believe it is the 26th of September, so it is coming up.
26th of September, and we're going to dabble a little bit into the Ryder Cup discussion, preview it just a tad, and then we're going to end the podcast on our power rankings of the top 5 golfers in the Ryder Cup, even though I'm pretty sure we'll agree on who's the best golfer right now in that tournament. But we'll end the podcast on that. So, Mike Rich, how do you want to start this off? What are you looking forward to with the Ryder Cup coming up in a couple weeks?
Well, first of all, I'm a big golf guy. I love the Ryder Cup. For those who don't know, it's every 2 years, so you gotta wait for it a little bit. And so it's not every year; it's every 2 years. So it's the most honorable thing you can be a part of in golf. It is the Ryder Cup, and even people who aren't golf fans really should turn on the Ryder Cup because it is competition at its best. It is 2 guys from the USA versus 2 guys from Europe in a foursome, and they just go against each other, and it's fantastic. Then they have singles matches. It is so good. But we got to start with the teams. I mean, you got the USA Ryder Cup's captain is Tom Watson, one of the most respected golfers to ever walk the earth. And let's face it, I'm going to say it right away, Tiger Woods wasn't going to be on this team. I don't care how healthy he was.
I agree.
Frankly, he wasn't doing anything. So, and the fact that he was so banged up that these guys in the Ryder Cup, they go 36 holes a day. So Tiger Woods can't get through 9. So, yeah, especially if he goes bogey, bogey, bogey in the first 3 holes, then he just says, "Ooh, I'm hurt," and then he withdraws himself from the tournament. But that's neither here or there. That might be another versus ramble for a future date. But we got to start with the automatic qualifiers. These are the guys who have, throughout the PGA season, have been most consistent. And for those of you who don't know, where you place in each PGA Tour event, you get a certain amount of points for the FedEx Cup, which is the big tournament at the end of the year, and you get Ryder Cup points as well. So whoever has the most points, the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the top 9 guys get automatic bids into the Ryder Cup team. Then after that, you have the captain has their 3 captains picks. So they pick 3 people who didn't make the top 9 to round out the 12-man roster. So Tom Watson's squad, you got Ricky Fowler, who is one of the best, one of the most consistent players all year, which me and you, Johnny, have talked about. He's come in the top 5 in all 4 majors this year. Certainly not hurting in the money department, Johnny.
No. He's doing okay.
He's fun to watch. And I think his swing is as loud as it's closed. He's definitely a person to watch. But real quick, Ricky Fowler, Jim Furyk, always there. He's really, really been consistent all year. Zach Johnson, who I think is underrated. Matt Kuchar, Phil Mickelson, the crowd favorite, my favorite. He makes it after having a great last 2 tournaments. Patrick Reed, no one's talking about, one of the most consistent players all year. Then the next up-and-comer, Jordan Spieth, only 21 years old, makes the Ryder Cup team, his first full year on the PGA Tour, makes the Ryder Cup squad. Jimmy Walker, who was right there for the FedEx Cup title, fell short, makes the Ryder Cup team, and Bubba Watson. Bubba Watson, that rounds out the 9 automatic qualifiers. Tom Watson chooses Keegan Bradley, who was fantastic in the 2012 Ryder Cup U.S. team, Hunter Mahan, who was also pretty good, and Webb Simpson, who is one of the most underrated and consistent players on tour this year. So that was the USA Ryder Cup squad.
Yes. Now, the big question that I think everyone is kind of posing is that Billy Horschel, who won the FedEx Cup, is not on the U.S. Ryder Cup team. Now, I don't know the timeline for which Tom Watson had to make his selections for this team, if there was a like a deadline, if you will. I don't know that date, but Billy Horschel, he won the last two events and then won the FedEx title. And if I'm Tom Watson, I'm shaking my head going, why didn't I pick the hottest golfer that the USA has right now?
Well, to be fair, the picks come before the FedEx Cup ends. So you have to make the decision. Billy Horschel wasn't the most consistent guy on tour this year. He was kind of nowhere to be found alive. No one was really talking about Billy Horschel until the Masters of last year when he was leading after a round. But he's kind of been there in some tournaments, and then he just simply waited too long. It's a known fact that where the Ryder Cup deadline ends. And yeah, it is unfortunate for Billy Horschel that he waited too long to kind of come into his own. I don't think he's hurting that much. He wins the last two tournaments. He wins the FedEx Cup, $10 million right there, on top of the tournament that he won the week before. So I don't think he's really hurting in that sense. But yeah, it's unfortunate that probably the hottest golfer right now isn't on the team. But this is how it's done every 2 years, and the FedEx Cup happens after the captain's picks get made. So it's unfortunate for Billy Horschel, but that's just kind of how the way it goes.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the big question for Team USA is that the fact of the matter is that they're big underdogs. No one expects them to win this. Europe has the better players, and if you look down that Europe roster, I'll read through it quickly. You got Rory McIlroy, won 2 majors this year. Right now, he's the hottest golfer on the planet by far. You got Sergio Garcia, who had a great year. Henrik Stenson, Jamie Donaldson, Victor Dubuisson. I love saying that name, Dubuisson. Martin Keimer, Justin Rose, Stephen Gallagher, Graham McDowell, Thomas Bourne, Lee Westwood, and Ian Poulter. Right now, I think you could easily say Team Europe has a absolutely huge advantage. And according to golfstrat.com, USA, I guess, and according to their matchups, only has 2 advantages out of the 12 players matched up. That's it.
And they haven't won on European soil since the 90s. I think that's also something they're playing. How the Ryder Cup is set up, you play every other Ryder Cup, you play on your soil. So last Ryder Cup in 2012, they played in USA. Now they're playing on European soil, which is kind of important. I mean, Europe has dominated the USA in these Ryder Cup matchups, and they dominate even more when it's on their soil. But it is to be said, the last time we won on European soil, Tom Watson was our captain. So whether you take that or not, it's at least something to talk about. Last time Tom Watson was our captain, we won on European soil. So let's see how it is here. But I agree, Europe has the players here. You have the best player in the world, Rory McIlroy. You have Sergio, who really sets the plate during the Ryder Cup. And I think the player that you really have to talk about here for Europe is Ian Poulter. This guy was born for the Ryder Cup. This guy has fire, and this guy has just his guts. He has everything. He's looking to beat you every time he plays, and it's even more seen during the Ryder Cup. This guy's Ryder Cup record is 12-3, Stanko.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
He has a solid track record in the Ryder Cup. Granted, that's why Keegan Bradley made the roster. He played great with Phil last year. But Ian Poulter is the guy that is going to be – I really think is going to be the story. He has been the story for the Ryder Cup. He's going to be the story again. And Europe simply has better players. For me, I'm more interested to see how the younger guys and the people who are in for the first time are going to do, at least for the U.S. team, because let's face it, there is only Phil, Jim Furyk, and Zach Johnson have more than 3 appearances in the Ryder Cup on the U.S. team. Ricky Fowler has 2, Keegan Bradley has 2, Webb Simpson has 2, Hunter Mahan has 3, Bubba Watson has 3, Matt Kuchar has 3, and then Reed, Spieth, and Walker are all new players. So, you know, sometimes people say ignorance is bliss in the Ryder Cup. Your first go around, you sometimes play your best golf, and I think people were surprised how good Keegan Bradley did last time. But you know, these guys in Europe, they really have the players to really take care of us. And I'd be lying if I said I think USA is going to win here. I think it's just, again, it's another dominant Europe team. And I mean, as much as I love the U.S. guys, I love a lot of guys on Europe. I love Roy McIlroy. I love Sergio. I love Graham McDowell. There's so many guys, and that's kind of what I like on tour. There's so many likable guys now on tour that are very good. And also Tiger Woods nowhere near the Ryder Cup, which is also fantastic.
A personal investment from Mike Riss, no Tiger Woods. I agree with you. I think another person you got to look out for is Lee Westwood. 9 appearances on the Ryder Cup, the most experienced of the Europe players, and he has a record of 18, 13, and 6, so a winning record. I think you got to look out for him as well. He was an easy captain pick when you have that much experience and you performed that well. So that's another advantage that Europe has. They bring a ton of experience with those captain's picks with Ian Poulter and Lee Westwood. And when you have that at your expense, you can afford to select a first timer in Stephen Gallagher. So
yeah,
it's going to be really tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's just really great. Even if you don't like golf, it's just really something to watch. It really is, because there's nothing else like it, and it's just, you know what? It's just who's better, and it's match play. It's just, who has what it takes, in the long run. It tests mentally, it tests physically. It's just so demanding, and it's unlike anything what the golfers kind of have to go through. They don't have to play this. They don't have to play this type of setting, this match play setting. They only do that once a year. But now with the Ryder Cup, it is a completely different animal, especially when you are representing your own, representing your country. So let's see what happens here.
Yeah, and you know what I love? The crowds. The crowds at the Ryder Cup
is
are
fantastic,
awesome,
and that's why you got to look out for these young guys. And it's kind of good. You see the kid-like attitudes in these older guys like Phil and like Furyk, and because the crowd is just so into it. And guys like Ian Poulter, guys like Keegan Bradley, they feed off of the crowd's energy, and it's really just a sight to see. So I cannot wait for the Ryder Cup in a couple weeks.
Yeah, those crowds in Happy Gilmore when the golf upper class wasn't too happy. That's the crowds that you have at the Ryder Cup. That makes it incredibly entertaining to watch.
It's just the crowd is ready to erupt every time. Every time they're on the course, it's fantastic to watch.
Yeah, like I'm looking at a GIF right now of last year. Keegan Bradley's caddy waving around the flag stick after he made a huge putt, and the crowd going nuts in the background, and Keegan Bradley fist pumping all over the place. So you would never get that on a regular golf course, a caddy waving around a flag stick in triumphant victory.
Yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait. I'm going to be glued to the TV once it starts. But I would love if this was on U.S. soil, but they took care of us last time as well. So let's see if we can if we can steal one in Europe. But Captain Paul McGinley for Europe really has a nice squad this year. So kind of hope for the best for the U.S.
Yeah. So all right, let's end this podcast on the Ryder Cup note. Let's go through our top 5, going from 5 to 1. The top 5 golfers that we have ranked in this Ryder Cup. Rich, who do you start off with at number 5?
All right, I'm going to go with the best players right now. So I'm not looking at legacy. I'm not looking at, previous. I'm just looking at right now who are the top 5 best golfers. And I'm going to start with there's so many. We're just doing out of Europe and U.S., correct, Sanko?
Yes.
We're not doing 5 U.S., 5 Europe.
No, we're doing combined.
So, okay. Let me see. All right, I'm going to go with Man. All right, I'm going to go with Martin Keimer, number 5, from Europe. I mean, this guy, he won major this year in just decisive fashion, and then he kind of fell off a little bit, but I think this guy can be dangerous. Not necessarily for the Ryder Cup, but I think this guy, playing ability, he's one of the top 5 golfers. Right here, right now, he is one of the golfers. I think too many people kind of put him on the back burner, but this guy's swing is as sweet as it could be, and people forget that this guy won the U.S. Open by double-digit strokes, just completely took care of everything that needed to happen in that major. And so yeah, my number 5 is Martin Keimer from Europe.
My number 5, I'm going a different route. I'm going I'm going to disagree with you in terms of the rankings because I'm kind of going to go with legacy a little bit. Because I think that matters in an event like the Ryder Cup because you have experience with the crowds and such. So that's why I'm going with Lee Westwood at 5 because I think Europe has someone to lean on with Westwood, with someone who has experience in the tournament. Granted, I don't think he didn't have a great year this year by any means, but he brings forward a sense of confidence. He's going to be able to help those 2 new guys on Europe, if you will, who are going through their first one, and the 3 newcomers for Europe, and Jamie Donaldson, Victor Dubuisson, and Stephen Gallagher. So I got Lee Westwood at 5 for the 18, 13, and 6 record. It's going to be his 9th appearance in the Ryder Cup, and I think at 41 years old, he's going to be able to bring them some wins. He's going to be able to bring them some leadership, and that's why I got him at 5.
Yeah, I have no faith in Lee Westwood at all. I don't. I think that he had his chance to be really, really good. He had his chance to be the number 1 golfer so many times, and I think that when it comes down to it, I don't think he has that killer instinct anymore. I just don't. I think he used to have it, but there's too many guys to clip him. But that's why I don't have Lee Westwood on this list. I don't. And I think my number 4 is gonna be Phil Mickelson. I'll be honest. I don't think he's on this list. He's not the best player he's definitely not the best player right now. And let's face it, he was struggling throughout the year. This was one of his worst years on tour. He didn't win a major. He got bounced out of the FedEx Cup early, and up until the last majors, he wouldn't have been an automatic qualifier here. So thank God he had a good last 2 weeks. He had a very good final major, very good right after that major with that Rory McIlroy one. He came back and he had another top 10 finish. But other than that, that was really Phil Mickelson's year. So I would love to put him higher, but for right now, he's slowly declining. It's his 10th appearance. I think he loves playing with these young guys, and I'm going to guarantee the team it's going to be Phil Mickelson and Keegan Bradley. They were fantastic last year. And so yeah, Phil Mickelson is still good. He's not the best, but he kind of like how you said with Lee Westwood. He is, along with Jim Furyk, the oldest guy on the team with some young guys who haven't been there before. So I mean, and who doesn't love him? So I have Phil Mickelson right now as number 4 on the list.
I disagree. I don't have Phil Mickelson on this list. He is not in my top 5. Right. I'm going with the other elderly gentleman at number 4, and that's Jimmy Furyk. If you look at how he played in the majors this year, he played very well. 14th in the Masters, 12th in the U.S. Open, then 4th in the Open Championship, and 5th in the PGA. He's performed very well. He finished in the top 10 in 4 of the last 5 tournaments he's played in. And he's come in second. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. He's come in second 4 times this year in different tournaments. The most recent at the Tour Championship just this past weekend, where he earned over $700,000. So I got Jimmy Furyk because guess what? He's not flashy by any means, but he's consistent. So I got Jimmy at number 4 because he's been playing consistent all year, except for a couple really bad outings. At the Crown Plaza Invitational, at Colonial CC, and the World Golf Championship at the Trump National Doral. Those are really his only 2 awful appearances this entire year. So I got to go with Jimmy at number 4 for the pure consistency factor.
Yeah, I would love to put Furyk on the list, but just simply put, he stinks in the Ryder Cup, Stanko. I just can't. He has been there a lot, and he's lost a lot of matches.
Yes, he is 9-17-4. So I see that record, and I agree it's hesitation, but I got faith in the old man. I got faith in Jimmy. Laying down the line for him.
I think that his style of play, his passive, kind of dismissive, not really aggressive style of play just doesn't fit with the Ryder Cup. I think that he is great, and I think he can be on this list. He can play like he deserves to be on this list, but I don't think he has it. Kind of like Lee Westwood. I just don't think there's that fire in him a lot, and he's had some bad outings. I think this is a bounce back. I agree. This is a bounce back year for Furyk. I was surprised at how well he played throughout the year. Obviously, you're going to have some bad tournaments because it's the PGA. You're not going to play well every week. But when it comes to the Ryder Cup, I trust more guys rather than Jim Furyk. So that's why he wouldn't be on my list. But, number three, number three, it's tough. I know my top two. So
I know my top two as well.
I know my top two, but there's just so many guys, and I don't want to disrespect the players on the European squad. And it's tough, but for Ryder Cup purposes only, I'm going to say Ian Poulter. This guy is fantastic in the Ryder Cup. I cannot say it enough. I swear, if he would be the best player on earth, if all the PGA Tour was the Ryder Cup, this guy would not lose. He is born for the Ryder Cup. He is fantastic. He's gritty. He takes risks. He does everything you need to do to succeed in the Ryder Cup. He's fearless. He doesn't care who he's playing. People fear him on the course. So for Ryder Cup purposes only, Ian Poulter is easily on this list at the top 5 heading into the Ryder Cup.
I agree with you in every sense of the word. In every sense of the one. He's my number 3 as well, just because he's so good in the Ryder Cup. You can't pass him up. And he would be higher on my list if not for these top 2 having just absolutely ridiculous years.
Yeah.
I can't even add to your point. You said everything correctly. Ian Poulter is my number 3 as well.
Yeah, and I guess we have to have the other 2. I mean, you can't say Ricky Fowler shouldn't deserve to be on this list because he does. If it wasn't for his boy Rory McIlroy, which, spoiler, he's going to be my number 1, Ricky Fowler had the most consistent year out of anybody. Granted, he didn't necessarily do very well last Ryder Cup. He didn't get a win in his last Ryder Cup, but it's very rare for anybody. Rather just a 25-year-old, it's very rare for anybody to finish in a top 5 in a major. There are very few players that have done that in their careers. He did it in 1 year, 4 majors, 4 top 5 finishes. So this guy's playing out of his mind, and I love watching him play. I love the respect that he has for everyone else. Nobody has a bad thing to say about him. So Ricky Fowler is my number 2. Great swing, great power, great putting ability. And USA needs him. USA needs Ricky Fowler to play like he has been playing, or else really we don't have that much of a shot. So Ricky Fowler is my number 2.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And listen, if Rory McIlroy wasn't the king that he was this year, all the talk would be on Ricky Fowler finishing top 5 in all the majors. Because in any other year besides the dominant year that that Rory McIlroy had this year, Ricky Fowler would have arguably one of the most successful years a golfer could have, finishing top 5 in every major. And you look at him, he's finished in the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 out of his last 8 tournaments. He's come in the top 10. He is ridiculously hot right now. I don't know how you could pass up on him. He finished second place twice in a turn, twice in the majors, the U.S. Open, the Open Championship. And I'm going to tell you right now, Rory McIlroy is my number 1 too. I would watch 4 straight days of Rory McIlroy versus Ricky Fowler one-on-one. I would be perfectly content with that.
I mean, the guy won 3 straight tournaments. He won the Open Championship. He wins the Bridgestone. He comes back, wins the PGA Championship. This guy is so good. And he had an incredible year. He was the golfer of the year as he should have been. And he's scary. He's scary good. And it's going to be, if you're on the U.S. team, you're going to be like, you don't want to play this guy in singles matches. You just don't. You don't want him to be even around your group watching you play. This guy is so on fire right now. So I am so excited to see this because I love a lot of the guys that are on both teams. So, I mean, just all around. But I 100% agree. It's Rory McIlroy. There's no question that it's Rory McIlroy, the best player heading into the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, he's number one, bar none. Everyone will have him at number one. The dude is unstoppable right now. I mean, he's got everything going for him. And I don't know if you remember the interaction he had with Ricky Fowler after the last major, the PGA Championship, where Ricky was like, man, it was a tough year, but I'm going to keep on grinding, stuff like that. Congratulations to Roy. These two guys are so classy to each other. They're actually good friends. You could tell they have mad respect for each other. So, and I just love that. And that's why I love to watch them play against one another in singles because you know that each one of them, I don't want to say they're going to be rooting for the other guy, but they're going to appreciate the other guy when he has a good shot when something like that happens because they know that they push each other. And that's why you got to have them one, too, because they push each other in every major, especially the past two. They're so fun to watch right now, and they're the young brand of golf. And if you want ambassadors for a young brand of golf for people to start watching it, these two guys are great examples, too, because you got Rory McIlroy, who's kind of the old classic. He doesn't dress very flashy. He's kind of humorous. He's got an old man type of humor, if you ask me. And then you got Ricky Fowler, who dresses in the bright colors and the bright orange, and he could draw the more flamboyant crowd as well. So I love watching these two guys play, and you got to have them once to empowering.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's kind of flip of the coin. It's just like you got Rory McIlroy and Ricky. They're both 25 years old, and you said it. Like there's one that kind of has that dry sense of humor with Rory, and it's great. And then you have Ricky Fowler, who's kind of that flashy kind of kid that kind of draws more people over to golf as well. So, and then you also people got to talk about Jordan Spieth. This dude is 21 and he qualified. He was an automatic qualifier for the Ryder Cup at the age of 21. So I really want to see how he handles at such a young age, how he handles his first Ryder Cup. I'll give you a dark horse. I think Jimmy Walker has a very good Ryder Cup because he's been one of the most consistent players for the past 2 years, and I think he's kind of a no-name. Not a no-name. I'm not going to say no-name. But a lot of people outside of people who know a lot about golf don't necessarily know Jimmy Walker. So I would say that Jimmy Walker is kind of my dark horse for the USA Ryder Cup team to be successful.
All right, mark it down, ladies and gentlemen. The dark horse, Walker, according to Mike Ritz. So mark it down. Mike Ritz, we'll come back to you after the Ryder Cup to see if that prediction is correct.
I know. I will say, but I will go on record that Europe is going to win. They're going to win on, especially over there on European soil. It's very hard. They have a better team, top to bottom. But yeah, I mean, I think Jimmy Walker's going to play well, but I think Europe's going to take it in the end.
Yeah, keep it close, keep it competitive. That's all I ask for.
Just a side note, just to kind of backtrack here. Stanko, it's 49-0 Atlanta.
Dude, I know. It's awful. Matt Ryan's not even playing anymore. Dude, it sucks. Man, CBS has got to be shooting themselves that they got Thursday Night Football, and then their second game they get, people shut it off after the first quarter. Yeah.
It was when it's 28-0 before the second quarter starts. It's rough. It's rough. Even Jim Nantz wants to get after it.
Oh, without a doubt. Man, and I got Bobby Rainey on my fantasy team. He's got -0.4 right now.
Oh, Stanko. For those who don't know, John Stanko really talks trash going into this week against our defending champion.
I had to get my confidence up because I lost to Buzzy last year in the championship, and I had to boost myself up, and karma came back and bit me in the ass with Bobby Rainey getting negative points when he's projected 18 points with Doug Martin not playing.
It's safe to say that he rained on your parade, Stanko.
Oh, man, I had that coming to me. Well done.
But the week is not over, Stanko, because there's always another game. And this is only the Thursday night game. Granted, you would love to have Bobby Rainey carry you into the week. But who knows? Maybe somebody goes off. Maybe somebody puts up 50 for you this week.
Man, I would be so happy. I'd just be so happy.
Is this Rainey? Oh.
No, that's Atlanta. That's Atlanta. As we speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Atlanta. Just scoring another touchdown.
What's the worst defeat in NFL history?
I don't know, but this is bad.
We might be watching history in the making.
And you can only get it here on
the Strictly Business Podcast. The worst defeat is 73-0.
73-0. Yeah, I just got it too.
When the Chicago Bears defeated the Washington Redskins in the 1940 NFL championship game. 73-0.
Lord.
So we're not there yet, but there's still a shot.
A minute 47 left in the third quarter, and it's about to be 6-0 Atlanta.
Man, well, poor Tampa Bay fans, man. I hope they went to bed early.
I don't want to bring this up, but I'm going to. I believe Tampa Bay is not in last place, according to you, at the end of the year in their division.
No, they're not. You are correct in that fact. I actually had them ahead of the Carolina Panthers.
All right, I just wanted to point that out. Just a little plug in there.
Man, you are just killing me with these NFL predictions thing. You're just, ugh. Which you have the right to do. You have the right to do that. You do. I'm
2 games up, and who knows what's going to happen for week 3. So I got to get my shots in when I can. That's
right. So Mike, we got to do our predictions for this Sunday before Sunday. Obviously, they'll be up before Sunday, so they'll either do those tomorrow or Saturday. You will be joining me for that podcast, so you'll be able to discuss our predictions and discuss our disagreement if we have any. So yeah, definitely viewers and listeners look forward to that. Mike, fantastic job on the Rambles today. Top notch.
I appreciate
so far.
I appreciate it. I'm glad that we were able to get both in. I was a little worried.
That's right. And the reason we got both is because we both agreed that the duds of the week are the NFL, Adrian Peterson, Jonathan Dwyer. Take your pick out of the NFL in this whole entire controversy. That's the reason we did 2 Rich's Rambles, because there's no point in doing duds of the week when there's so many to choose from, and they're all NFL related. Just want to make that note.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree.
Mike, it's been a pleasure, and I'll talk to you either today or Saturday about Sunday's predictions. Sound good?
All right, Stanko. Sounds good, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right.
56-0.
Dude,